Hello and welcome to a millinery history video. My name is Ilona, I'm a milliner based in London, and today I'm going to briefly explore the instances of feathers in headwear from the 16th century to the modern day. Please keep in mind that I'm only scratching the surface of feather fashions and there is so much more to explore. I am definitely not a qualified historian, but I have done my best to conduct research responsibly from reputable sources. I will link to those sources and other resources for further reading in the description box below. If you think I've missed something important, please be kind and let me know in the comments. Now, if you don't like the idea of real feathers in modern millinery, that's okay. Make sure to stick around and subscribe, because next week there will be a video on how to make a non-bird alternative feather out of cinnamon. Brew yourself a nice hot cup of tea, settle down comfortably, and let's get started. Let me begin in the mid-16th century. This is when feathers on hats really took off, especially with elite men. This is the Bristow hat, which is currently in the care of Historic Royal Palaces, England. This hat is rumoured to have belonged to King Henry VIII of England, who allegedly threw it in the air after the surrender of Boulogne in 1544. It was caught by the courtier Nicholas Bristow and kept in the family ever since. The hat itself is in remarkable condition given its age. It features a magnificent green ostrich plume set against a plum-coloured silk-tufted hat. It has a silver braided button and holes at equal intervals to hold jewels. It certainly would have stood out in a crowd. Ostrich feathers eventually became so popular that it was difficult to distinguish the wealthy merchants and the middle class from the nobility. So in 1552, Edward VI, son of Henry VIII, updated the sumptuary laws to restrict the wearing of ostrich feathers to gentlemen and above. What's a sumptuary law? Well, according to the Encyclopaedia Britannica, a sumptuary law is there to restrict excessive personal expenditures in the interest of preventing extravagance and luxury. So, as I just mentioned, its purpose is to create a visual distinction between classes of society. Moving into the 18th century, feathers become more of a female fashion. They were made popular by two of the most famous fashionistas of the day, Marie Antoinette in France and Georgiana, Duchess of Devonshire in England. First appearing as ornamentation for tall hair, feathers soon made their way onto hats. Georgiana was famously painted by Gainsborough in 1785. She's wearing a hat of her own creation featuring a wide brim and a medium crown decorated with a sash of fabric and black ostrich feathers. This painting went on display at the Royal Academy, and many women, once seeing the painting, went to their milliners requesting a picture hat, like the one the Duchess is wearing in the painting. Here are some more paintings by Gainsborough, painted around the same time. They all feature the picture hat, which later in the Victorian period became known as the Gainsborough hat, thanks to its appearance in his paintings. This style of hat became once again very fashionable during the Edwardian age, which saw the rise of massive hair inspired by the fictional Gibson Girl drawings by illustrator Charles Dana Gibson. Hats became larger and larger so as to balance out the silhouette of massive hair and the S-bend corset with bum rolls. There was also a huge rise in the feather trade. Ostrich farming had started in the 1860s in South Africa, then a British colony. These farmed ostrich feathers were transported to London, which became the feather hub of Europe. Alongside the farming, there was widespread slaughtering of exotic birds. It is estimated that 200 million wild birds per year were killed for their feathers, leading to the near extinction of many species. During the so-called Plum Boom of the late 19th century, it became fashionable to have whole birds on hats. Eventually, many started to oppose this practice of what became known as murderous millinery. The Royal Society for the Protection of Birds was founded in 1889 by Emily Williamson and Eliza Phillips. Another prominent supporter of these campaigns was Queen Alexandra, wife of King Edward VII, who in 1906 banned the use of osprey plumage at court. In 1921, Parliament passed the Importation of Plumage Act, which made importing exotic bird skins such as birds of paradise illegal. After this, hats began to shrink. The large picture hats covered in tons of feathers gave way to smaller, daintier, close-fitting cloche hats of the 1920s. The 30s saw hats evolve into mini shapes and perches designed to sit on top of the head. Feathers were now only a small decoration used sparingly. The early 20th century saw the rise of the showgirl. Feathers are obviously a large part of a showgirl's costume ensemble, used in fans, boas, and also in headdresses. Gabby De Leeward wore feathers on stage and also as fashion statements on hats. This colorized photograph shows her wearing a massive Gainsborough hat draped in ostrich feathers so large that they completely envelop her. Now, this is me speculating, but Gabby must have been a huge feather lover because I have found so many images of her wearing spectacular feather structures. You've got the draped ostrich, the fan ostrich, the egret flares, egret bunches, structures that look like they might start flapping and allow her to take off and fly as if she was a bird herself. I think I'm getting too excited by Gabby's playfulness in the fluttering headwear department, so let's move on. Today's most famous showgirl, Dita Von Teese, is also a fan of feathers, not to mention her love of hats in general. She has such a huge collection that it requires a separate accessory room in her house. Dita loves feathers so much she wants to cover a whole wall with them. If you look at the house tour she did for Architectural Digest in March 2020, you will see the most surreal interior, decorated with whimsy and vintage taxidermy. We can all only aspire to her level of opulence and glamour. Anyway, back to the hats. This particular ensemble is called the Swarovski John Quill Canary costume and is inspired by showgirls of the 20th century, Marlene Dietrich, Marilyn Monroe and Mae West. The headpiece is made with bleached peacock feathers and Swarovski crystals hanging from a delicate wirework structure that allows the crystals to move as Dita moves. The effect is mesmerizing. Today, the trade in feathers continues to decline. This is due to environmental and animal welfare concerns following on from the previous 100 years. The number of feather processing workshops, known as plumassiers, has greatly decreased. In 1919, there were 425 workshops in Paris. Today, there are only 3 left. The largest of these is Maison Le Mariée, in which Chanel purchased a controlling share in 1997. It is still possible to obtain the skins and feathers of exotic birds through them, but this is only because Le Mariée has an extensive stockpile brought up from smaller plumassiers which were all closed in the mid-20th century. Modern milliners such as Stephen Jones prefer to use farmyard and barn fowl feathers, which are a byproduct of the food industry. These feathers come from ostrich, rooster, turkey, goose and guinea fowl. It is possible to take a farmyard feather and make it look like it has come from the most exotic species by using bleaches, dyes, other embellishments. Other milliners continue to search for feather substitutes by experimenting with embroidery, crinoline, tulle and plastic. Speaking of plastic, why not give milk bottles a go? This is a hat made by Alessia Semeraro, and I think it looks so romantic. I've linked to her Instagram below, check her out, she's so much fun. Another thing you can try, as I've already mentioned at the beginning of the video, is cinema. You can expect a video next week on that subject. If there are any other millinery topics you'd like me to explore, be that history or demonstrations, let me know in the comments below. If you've enjoyed today's video, please like and subscribe. This really helps me grow and reach a larger audience. Thank you so much for watching. See you next time. Bye.
I've had eating a banana before recording is quite good.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
Try that next time. I got lipstick on my teeth.
No, you don't.
Oh! I just want to do all that again.
Yeah. They didn't put cats on their head, I can tell you that now.